What it is and what it do. We back with another MEAC'n UP Hour presented to you by the Names Are Not Important podcast with Mac and Free. But it's your boy Be Free in the building with brother Mackie, Will McKee. What's going on, McKee? How you feeling, brother?
Feeling real good. Feeling real good. Good to see you, Ben. Ready to discuss another exciting week of HBCU, MEAC, CIAA football, and at the end of the show, highlighting North Carolina A&T's autonomous car program in the School of Engineering. So let's get it, Ben. Let's
No
go.
doubt, no doubt. And as we always like to remind everybody, this is the MEAC'n UP Hour. You can catch every Sunday, 9 p.m. You can also catch the Names Are Not Important podcast with Mac and Free. We usually do a live short on Friday evenings. Catch us, but you can go to our channel on YouTube at Names Are Not Important, or you can catch us on Facebook, Names Are Not Important, or Mac and Free on IG. But this is me acting up, baby. So what we focus on here is 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 the athletics involved with the MEAC conference as well as the CIAA, and just kind of give our take on some of the happenings and what's going on, and we'll kind of step beyond the field a little bit sometimes to get into that, mix it up, and maybe make some folk mad. No, we ain't gonna do that, uh, but we also like to highlight something that may not often be talked about when we're in the midst of a sports season, and that is highlighting some of the academic excellence of these institutions. Something that we truly uh, like to lift up and maybe expose others to so that they can share that the excellence that goes along with it. And before we start, I got one shout out I want to do, and I want to shout out to my still undefeated Benedict College Tigers after a 31-3 thumping against Shawan. We put it on them. So we still got that train moving. So shout out to my BC Tigers, BC, you
BC,
know. All
you
right, and we're
know.
still rolling, ready to get into that SIAC conference and do it once again and repeat. So shout out to them. McKee, you got any shout out before we get started, my brother?
Well, I got to shout out Brother D from Names Are Not Important. Big shout
Shout
out to Brother D. And a big shout out to, we cover the CIAA, but big shout out to the Rams of Winston-Salem State, who we'll talk about a little later, who I'll just hold that. And my Bulldogs from Orangeburg, but that's coming up.
All right. Well, look,
Oh,
let's
oh,
get.
oh, oh, no.
Oh,
I got
come
to
on.
shout out somebody else, being. Got to shout out Byron Allen. Hashtag Byron Allen. Hashtag HBCU Go. Hashtag the Grio. And we'll talk about that a little later too. But his 10-year contract and agreement investment on HBCUs is in many ways unprecedented. That's what we are talking about when we're talking about investing in the community. Big shout out to Byron Allen.
Shout out, shout out. Yeah, and we will get into that because we do want to step beyond just the playing field to get into many other things that are related around our HBCU athletics. But like we focus mainly on the MEAC and the CIAA. And shout out to them brothers as Swacking the Fool, the inspiration. We got love,
Swacking a fool.
Swacking the Fool.
Swacking a
So
fool. Big shout
uh,
out. Oh, Ben, and a couple other shout outs.
come on, come on.
Uh, Big shout out to my Winston-Salem State posse,
Oh,
my
oh yeah.
crew.
Oh
None
yeah.
other than Kevin Surratt, who has
Uh-huh.
two sons that play professional football, one for the New York Jets, the other one for the Memphis Showboats.
Yeah.
Uh, Coach Terrence Graves down at Southern University, one of the best coaches around. Tony Gunther, who is just a corporate raider, always Winston-Salem State Ram with BP Oil. Big shouts out to him. Big shouts out to Timothy Pittman, who runs the counseling department at WSSU and does a great job, and Charlie Clemens, who is reforming people in our state's penal system. Those brothers are on board. They tune in. Big shout out to them. That's what HBCU life is all about.
That's
You
right.
emerge from our schools with lifelong relationships that give you a boost in your life. So big shout out to you. I had to do that.
Shout out to the Ramily over there, the posse. Uh, well, with that, man, let's jump right into some quick scores and get your thought. And as you see them running across on the ticker, but uh, I want to start with the Norfolk State Spartans. Um, Getting off to a rough start, taking that loss early to Virginia State, which indicates how hey, told you watch for the Trojans. But Norfolk State, another impressive win. They won 21-14 against Townsend, a Townsend team that just came off a strong showing at Morgan State. Watch out for Sparty. Um, as we see, North Carolina Central came back, bounced back from that tough loss. And UCLA beating Mississippi Valley State 45-3 in the Circle City Classic. Uh, Delaware State taking another rough one at FBS opponent Miami of Ohio 62-20. Morgan State, another tough loss, close one, but they lose. They go down to Albany 23-17. And then, as you said, Baki, the Bulldogs get in the win column with an impressive victory over the Citadel, that low country battle down there. I know there's a lot of shrimp and grits uh, 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 uh,
Yes,
uh,
sir.
being eaten this weekend for that low country battle. Shout out to the low country. But,
You know that.
McKee, I want to say something, man. Hey, man, listen. Early on, I was saying that the Morgan State, they look like they might challenge, but man, I'm kind of swaying towards Sparty, man. I think they might challenge NCCU for that MEAC title. Now, granted, I'm still going with the Eagles. I'm still going with the Eagles, but I think Norfolk State gonna make that thing a little interesting, man. Well, how you feel?
Well, Norfolk State's program has been on the rise since the acquisition of Southern's former head football coach when he made that decision to come up. And he's a MEAC guy originally, I want to say. He is a winner. He won at Southern
Mm,
University, and he's taken his winning ways to Norfolk State. Norfolk State is one of those places that great school, great tradition, and people have always kind of said once they get the right fit with that location, that's a beautiful location to have a recruiting trip on.
mhm.
I mean, Virginia Beach and Tidewater has some of the best athletes of all time, in this country's history. That Tidewater area has been a fertile crescent of recruiting for so many programs outside of Virginia. Uh,
Yeah,
UNC made a living with the Tidewater area. So people have always said once somebody comes in there, not that no one has, because there have been people that have done well there, but once somebody could really lock that area down and get those student athletes that ODU get sometimes, or get some of those mid-major talents, and still a couple Power Five great athletes to stay home in Norfolk. And I think this is the coach to do it. And they came close last year. Norfolk State was knocking
yeah,
at the door, and the year before that, they were in a tough battle with South Carolina State, which South Carolina State went on to the Celebration Bowl where they defeated Jackson State, but Norfolk State's been knocking at the door, and they look like they're ready to kick it in. The MEAC is going to be competitive in this conference season, isn't it?
no doubt, no doubt, no doubt.
Yeah, I mean, you got
It's gonna be
Norfolk.
there because I still think SCSU gonna be right there at the end,
Yeah,
especially with that tough schedule they played. They
yeah.
they're prepared. So
Yeah,
yeah, it's gonna be an interesting battle. And NCCU has a tough schedule. They got some tough opponents, beatable opponents, but some tough opponents coming up with Campbell. You know, Mike Mentor gonna have them boys ready, and Elon, and then the Bulldogs. So it's gonna be a real interesting next 3 4 weeks to kind of see how some of that positioning is gonna play out. Um, but it's gonna be real interesting. But I'm still rocking
yeah.
with the Eagles, man. I'm still rocking with the Eagles. They've been pretty consistent, and they beat teams that they're supposed to beat how they supposed to beat 'em. And that's what's been most impressive. You know, they could have come off the rough loss at UCLA and then traveling to Indianapolis and could have, had a tougher game than it could have been, shaking off that. But they were pretty dominant and did what they're supposed to do. So what we did kind of a little bit on Saturday, McKee, and if you want to kind of go in, want to give another shout out to those who may not have caught our little Saturday preview. It was only on for about 20 minutes. Shout out to the Circle City Classic that's been doing it for 39 years. And one thing we lifted up was, you know, uh, Circle City Classic has been the most consistent and most prominent, I think, national classic for HBCUs. You have many others that are more regional for those traditional matchups that you see, or state matchups. But the Circle City, being that they don't have any HBCUs that I know of in Indiana, but they've been one of the premier hosts, the Black Expo, Indiana Black Expo, and hosting this event. 39 years, man. So shout out to them and what they're doing, man. Go. If you got something you want to add on
Well, like we said a little bit on Saturday, the whole concept of the classic. So this is a not exclusively HBCU phenomenon, but largely HBCU, going
that?
all the way to and Norfolk State's Coach Odom. I want to say,
Yeah.
up at Norfolk State. Big shout out to him. He does a great job. He's a
Shout
hard
out.
worker. But anyway, the classic concept goes all the way back to the Orange Blossom Classic in Florida. I'm not saying that's
Yeah.
the first, not sure about that, but that was in
Back
pre-integration
with
days.
the Gold Bowl, the Union.
The Gold Bowl
Yeah.
In Richmond, Virginia, and these classics were creative ways for schools with such of a prestigious history and awesome ball players and great fans and alumni, but often cash strapped, short on money. So
Yeah.
anybody out there that's ever had to engineer a big entity that doesn't have a lot of funds and you're up against people that have mega dollars. Ohio State's program, you're looking at like a $75 million operation there. University of Michigan, probably like $68 million operations, and you're in the HBCU realm. You had to do something creative to generate interest and the bands and the pageantry. So Circle City Classic, as you said, big shout out to them. And you talked a little bit yesterday about the Black Expo that's there that same time as the Circle City Classic, which is just a phenomenal world class event. There's a small HBCU presence in Indiana, but not much at all. So it's an opportunity for recruiting. Enrollment management folks can go there, set up their table, and get some Midwestern students that may not have even been well aware of who these institutions were. So the spillover is much bigger than between the white lines of the football field. It's a community event up there with a parade. It's just a great event. And North Carolina Central, to your point, yesterday they started out with WSSU, which is a rivalry. Then they went on to North Carolina A&T, which is a bitter rivalry, tough game. Then they went out to UCLA, traveled across the country. So yeah, we were looking for a potential let up hard to motivate your players through all of that travel and fatigue. But big shout out to the coach and the staff down there in Durham, North Carolina. They came to play, put 40 plus up on the board, held Mississippi Valley State to about what, seven? What they hold them
3 point, 3 point,
to
three
3
point.
points. My lord, big shout out to the Eagles.
Yeah, and I believe you, uh, McKee, when you hint on the Orange Blossom goes back to 1933.
Wow,
So
wow.
I believe that might be the oldest. The Magic City, I think, being next, 1940. Alabama State, Alabama A&M. Um,
That one's
so
in some
yeah,
danger. That one's in some danger too. Maybe next week, or well, that's SWAC territory. We let SWAC and the fool handle that. But
we're gonna let them
go,
handle that. But we
yeah,
got
yeah,
love.
go check them out. They'll probably talk
Yep.
about that.
And the Turkey Day Classic, yes.
Yeah.
The old Turkey Day, uh, there used to be an old Turkey Day with Livingstone and Johnson C. Smith. We were talking about that a while ago, but this is the Turkey Day in Montgomery, um, that goes back with Alabama State and Miles College to 1924. So yeah,
Mm,
a lot of history with these classics. To your point, but we gonna get into some more controversial stuff. We trying to get through and get through the cosmetics.
right, right. We got to do
but
that.
uh,
We got to do that.
but yeah, but shout out Circuit City Classic, and once again, just another interesting stat. Like I say, it's beyond the lines. Um, they've put more than in their almost 40-year history, put more than $5.5 million towards the education of Indiana students for college,
Mm,
and just the exposure they're giving to our HBCUs in that classic with everything, the bands, everything. And once again, it's the Black Expo. So we
yeah,
got a lot of black entrepreneurs and businesses showcasing. So it's a great event. I hope to be able to support even more in the future. Uh, but shout out to them. So, brother McKee, let's move it to the CI, man. This was a key weekend. We got to really see some things in the CI this weekend, man. Um, there was a big matchup which we'll come to last between Fayetteville State and Virginia Union, but I want to start with this surprise team that got another impressive win, and that's Johnson C. Smith. The Bulls, the Golden Bulls, let me get it right, went on the road to Lincoln, got another impressive win. I think they're flying under the radar, and they might sneak up in that South.
yeah,
Because one thing we see with Fayetteville State is they the heart of a champion, great defense, but they're struggling to put some points up. It's almost as if you can get 21 points on them, you got a chance. Um, but they're slowly moving, creeping. I think Fayetteville State might have a run for that South title. I
yeah,
was a little more confident to start, but now just seeing in certain matchups, and that's not to take away uh, any performance of the schools they could, but I, yeah, man, it's looking competitive. And then another team that you cannot sleep on, who beat that Norfolk State team, is Virginia State with another impressive win. He shut out Livingstone, beat them 33-0. McKee, we might be looking at a new guard but we had a little struggle. Uh we might be looking at a changing of the guard in the CI, man. Winston, big win.
big
Uh
win.
a shutout against a tough Bluefield State. Uh like we say, Fayetteville State struggled to get them points. Bowie State had a tough one against St. Augs. Talk to me, man.
Yeah,
Man, we might your first prediction of the Rams coming out the South is looking good, man. They rallying behind that young quarterback.
yeah, well said, Ben. And Coach Massey is keeping those young men focused on not even say can't say salvage in the season, but one of the struggles you have at places like Winston Salem State is the tradition.
Mm,
You got the home of Big House Games, who just set a unprecedented tradition all around of sports in general, sports icon, legend. Then you walk all the way up to the Coach Bill Hayes era, where Hall of Fame, HBCU Hall of Fame, then the Pete Richardsons, uh, uh, very good teams. Legendary coach moved on to Southern University, and then Coach Blunt, and then so it's a place where if you lose a few early, it can be tough to go to the barber shop in Winston. It can be tough. But to his
mm,
credit, he's keeping the heads in the game. They got some talent there. That quarter, that young man behind center is as Dee was saying a couple weeks back, and as you just said, he can play with anybody. And when you got certain names across your chest, and you have a fighting chance, that tradition almost lifts you up and propels you forward. To Johnson C. Smith, it's another place where people have always said, with the talent that's in Charlotte,
mhm.
locally. For those who are not in North Carolina, South Carolina, who don't know, Charlotte is one of the football meccas of the country. It's like playing Florida high schools because they have a lot of players. They're big, they're fast, and they grow up playing at a high level from an early age. So maybe this is the coaching staff that's able to get some of those young people to stay local and play in the Queen City. That skyline looks awfully bright at nighttime, and you got the Carolina Panthers right there in town. So it's a
Yeah,
football town and can be an exciting place to play. Those guys up in Ettrick, Virginia, they have a tradition too. Coach Lou Anderson back in the day just had perennial 7 and 8 win seasons, and he would take that CIAA championship. If you left it out there, he would take it with Remus James and those great receivers and quarterbacks up there. So that's another school. All they have to do is have a chance, and they can win. They're winning this year. So to your point, and big ups too. I know we coming to them last. Big ups to Fayetteville State. I won't steal the thunder on that. It's gonna be a dog fight coming out of the South. We were looking at the North, but here comes the South.
you come to South.
Yeah,
But here come the South. But let's go into that, man. FSU, shout out to the Broncos.
yeah,
Ties there. I was born in Fayetteville. Grandmother was a Fayetteville State Bronco. Um, got love, but it's looking like Broncos, y'all gonna have a dog fight.
yeah.
Y'all gonna have a dog fight. Y'all the heart of a champion. You still gotta beat them. You still gotta beat them. But it looks like it might be a change. But that was the game of the week.
Yeah.
And they went to V Union, and a game where we felt Virginia Union would probably come out victorious, being that they were hosting it. But Fayetteville State, once again, the heart of a champion. They know how to win the tough ones, the ugly ones. Came out of there 10-7, low scoring game. But what matters is who's on the winning side of that score. Uh, but nevertheless, uh, it builds for um, some interesting matchups coming up. Once again, um, next week, you know, uh, Winston Salem State looks like they're gonna have the toughest challenge going on the road to Lincoln. So we're gonna keep an eye on that. That might be our game of the week. We're giving a little preview, but we gonna move past that, okay? But
Hey,
uh, once again, another big weekend. Shout out to all the schools. Just this is I'm gonna say this. This might be one of the most competitive seasons uh in the CI, especially in some years. You got, to
Yeah,
me, 6 teams that's gonna be right there at the end, I think. Compete.
yeah.
So, and you rarely see that where you got that many teams. You might have two or three that can, you know, but right now there's about 6 teams. Three in the north with Union, who still got a shot, Virginia State and Bowie State. In the South, John C. Smith still undefeated in conference, Winston undefeated in conference, Fayetteville State undefeated in conference. So it's gonna be interesting when those two start to bump heads and start to make room and shoot them bows and start vying for that number one spot, as Luda say. Coming for that number one spot. Shout out to
Yeah.
hip hop 50 years. But
Shout out to Luda, ATL.
so we done did all the nice stuff, man.
Yeah,
We done
yeah.
did all the nice stuff. We had some interesting talks in production and all that. But we're gonna start. We're gonna stay harmonious. Uh, how you feel about the Byron Allen deal? Do you think it's gonna help to take, and it's primarily with the CIAA, HBCU
Hmm.
go 10 years? Do you think it's gonna take them to that next level? How do you see this?
Man, I think it's big on multiple levels. I think first of all, it's an example to other uh, big money business people out there that Reverend Jesse Jackson used to always say that the inner city America, some people call it the hood, some people call it many things, but that areas with high concentration of blacks in a city, that it had like talent, treasure, and opportunity. It was a good trifecta that he used to mention. And it's the same and because the geographical positioning of most of our schools, these schools were founded in the late 1800s, most of them. So they were founded in what's the black community. And as the black community grew and integration came to pass, many people moved away from, but those campuses are still right there in the black community. And for somebody that has done as well as Byron Allen has, who is, as Jay Z would say, an unprecedented run, his skyrocketing through the mass media world and winning those big cases, which has just made his largesse out the roof. For him to see the value and the treasure that's in HBCU sports, that's
Mm,
in the HBCU, the community at large, and for him to invest, Byron Allen does not invest where it doesn't make sense. So he knew that there was a void there with HBCU coverage, that it wasn't being covered enough. With the resurgence of the HBCU spotlight being back in vision with the George Floyd situation, gave the HBCU visibility a little uptick. Recent Supreme Court decisions on admissions being a kind of an adverse SCOTUS decisions on our blacks' ability to get into Ivy League schools has also kind of said to the community, let's reinvest where we are. This is nothing against people that go to school wherever. We fought for that too. We fought for equal access under the law in 1965 and 1963 with those seminal court cases. But you have to, charity begins at home, as Fonte Coleman and Little Brother said. Charity
shout out.
begins at home. We have to invest in our own. So to
Well, let
answer
me
your
let me
question,
ask let me ask this, and
yeah,
because Mac is not here, he's usually the one that brings a unique side that really engages in I'm gonna take it a different way.
Let's go.
We, Brother Mackey, is this a part of the Dion effect? And what I mean is, he came 3 years ago to Jackson State. A lot of attention now being placed primarily on his program, but you see more larger entities, the NBA trying to connect with HBCU. You see this movement. Is this another sign of the Dion effect? Was by now HBCU Go has been together when he started the Grio last year because they've been televising HBCU games. So we not this is more of a more
somebody was going.
permanent deal and
Somebody
bringing
was
in.
going to
See,
type that in. Yeah.
yeah, but even Dion came several years ago and started the wave. Is this still a part of the Dion effect? And now, hey, he's gone. Maybe I can step into that void that's filled with connecting a big name, Byron Allen,
Yeah.
having a more prominent role. Is this Dion effect? Would it have happened without Dion? I want to hear some of these folks, especially some of the swag folks. If you checking us out, let us know. Do we have Dion to
But
thank for this? Would this deal have happened?
yes and no.
All
And that's
right.
split. Yes and no. In politics, we say we have no permanent friends, no permanent enemies, just permanent interests. No permanent friends, no
Mm,
permanent enemies, just permanent interests.
mm,
So, and we got to hear from what you think about that because in your very living room, your father was negotiating with those early BET deals for black
yes.
college sports. He was initiating a lot of that. And we put
Yeah.
out a great article. We reposted a great article on Key and Free Senior and Title IX. A big shout out to women in sports and giving them their equal shine and their equilibrium that they deserve. But to go to your question real quick, uh, uh, when your interest, to go back to the political adage, when your interest is increasing revenue for HBCU sports and HBCUs, getting better, getting more talent, that getting the best players that we can, scholar athletes, and a primetime Deion Sanders comes to an HBCU and causes a swoosh effect where it's increasing the visibility. We know that Deion Sanders is a walking magnet for revenue. We interested in that, not so much Deion the person, even though I think he's an awesome, awesome man. It's not so much him in a person to get in a cult following of celebrity. We live in a very celebrity obsessed culture. It's not about the selfie in this one. It's not about his, but it's about what he brings to the table. And it's about harnessing that and making it work for you, all of the institutions. Deion Sanders has had an effect on every aspect of HBCU sports since he arrived. So that's undeniable. That's not to say he founded HBCU sports. You just said this, the Orange Blossom Classic goes back to the 1930s. HBCU Sports was founded on Johnny B. McClendon's and Dr. Walker's from Benedict College and NCCU. It was founded on big house games and people that don't even have big names that put in tireless effort. The Kasems down south, and on and on and on. But he had a serious media and revenue impact on us. And I'll say this: it probably did get. I hadn't thought of that before tonight. It probably did get Byron Allen's attention, and it probably either introduced him to or reminded him of the fact that there's gold in them there hills, meaning the HBCU community is a place of richness And if somebody dares to invest in it and focus on it, and there should be no one in America. I know how we do in this country from time to time, and the hate is 1611 on up. But
Mm.
there's you can't come at you coming against the rise of one of America's uh, jewel in the crown of America. Yeah, I'm being cliche-ish right now. You could play the violins, but you can't hate. You cannot hate on a Virginia Union coming up to a higher level. It's just the moral high ground is too high on this one. So big shout out to Byron Allen. You've been your father did a plethora from the Freedom Bowl to his deal with BET. What say you about a Byron Allen doing a 10-year deal with HBCU Sport? What do you say with your experience
It's
and
awesome.
what you?
It's awesome.
Okay.
Um, and I want to shout out too because this doesn't get a lot of play too, and many many are reconnecting. And what I want to point out is that even Roland Martin's network, um,
Mhm. Mhm.
the Black Star Network, inked a deal. Uh, I forget the conference, the NIA conference with Xavier and Russ College, and shout out to those HBCUs. They've even inked a deal to cover basketball and baseball
Is
in those
Talladega
conferences. Talented, yeah. So it's
prime time's alma mater?
yeah, yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
to your point, many have started to recognize, and in my opinion, it don't matter who started it as long as we're doing it now because
Yeah.
it needed to be done. Um, Shout out to Bob Johnson who got the ball rolling
Yeah.
with the games of the week on BET and hosting that, and we look at what it's parlayed into. um, because there are schools, let's be honest, that get left out. Because even with the ESPN deals and everything, uh, before it was primarily on the FCS schools, right? So your SIC, your CIAA usually got left out. Now they're on like ESPN Plus. You got to have certain subscriptions and stuff to maybe catch some stuff. But with this, we need something that we can kind of be the primary stakeholders. Like it's not somebody uh, like providing, but we're actually there at the table, striving along with, and that's what I think this encompasses with Byron Allen. I think it's an opportunity for the HBCUs involved in this deal to be there in stride and not just trying to take the parental. Here you go. You know what I'm saying? I think it
Yeah.
gives them a little more stake in it, uh, to where both can grow together. Um,
Yes.
and that's the beauty of it. And for him to make that commitment, just shows that he's there for the long haul, or in the sense of he's there to to get it where he thinks it can go.
Yeah.
And right there
Like
at the
you.
table. Yeah,
Yeah. Like you said, that's a base network that's going to cover you no matter the other deals become more like gravy if you've got
yeah,
uh, the grill there all the time. I was looking
yeah.
at this. The Big Ten deal last year in 2022 was $2.6 billion
Mm,
over 6 years, which comes out to 430 million a year. And people, we're just talking the TV deal. You're
mhm.
not talking about Ohio State football jerseys that go for $115 in the bookstore in a store. You're not talking
Yeah,
about a stadium that holds 100,000 people and the tickets are on average what for Ohio State game? $200 or $300 or
probably
a little bit less.
75 nosebleed.
75 nosebleed. You know. So I agree with you for Byron Allen too. And Byron Allen is growing with all that he has. He's getting more every day. His business is growing every day. What better than the HBCUs to grow with him?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And that
Yeah,
$430 million split, 16 schools, 26 million.
yeah.
Uh well, minus whatever percentage the conference takes. Uh,
And
but but they're probably making 20 million off the deal. But
yeah, and just think about
now
this:
you
the
see
Celebration
why,
Bowl. Yeah,
huh? No, but you
Celebration
see
Bowl
why
pays out a meal.
USC and
Yeah,
them running. Yeah, 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 yeah. And that's what makes everything kind of move, right?
yeah,
The TV hand, the TV dollars,
right.
and now if we are investing back into it, one thing that you will see is, as is evident now, the competition level is going up. Look at just how the CIAA is getting more and more competitive every day. You know, um, other schools coming in. I think, and let's be real. I said that about USC, UCLA. Look how fast everybody moving to Big 12, but now CIAA inking big deals. You might see more of the Bluefield states, the Campbells, the Elon. They might be more willing to move into a historically black conference
Hmm.
because there's competition and there's television exposure. See, I don't think people really understand the dynamic that plays in it because Pac-12 was a well-oiled machine. They had the Pac-12 network, but it wasn't what the Big Ten was moving. It
Right.
wasn't what the SEC is moving. So now you see why these schools moving around to these conferences, and it's and and and, and and it's like they want a part of the share, the big dollars. So if our schools start to get into that realm and it starts to grow, hey, then we can start to get improvements on the facilities. We can start to get, more exposure so that we're getting national recruiting. Uh, more kids from the West are now exposed. You can sneak more and more talent out of areas that might not regularly get this coverage. So, it's a beautiful deal for me. But, I don't want to dwell on that. I just wanted to throw that out there. But we got to get back over here because, uh, back always has an interesting angle. And I tried my best impersonation back, but yeah, but anything interesting before we do our highlight? Anything else like on your mind? We talked about many things, but we might have to do that next week. But was there anything else like you were thinking about?
Well, I just wanted to throw in real quick before we go to that and close out. Uh, that deal with the Big Ten, like you said, it shows you conference realignment. So it's like my political science professor at Winston-Salem State, Dr. Subhash Shaw, used to say, if you want to know politics, you follow the money. You I think Joe Biden's daddy used to say to politicians that would visit his house, they say, well, let me tell you what my values are. And he would say, you show me your budget, I'll tell you what your values are. So people make decisions based on revenue more than anything else. And this is a business. And for so
Yeah.
many years, in Power Five schools, head coaches are making $4 and $5 million. Position coaches are making $200,000 and $300,000. Not to mention, some of these schools are located in parts of the country where if football were not big, there wouldn't be much going on. Football impacts lodging with the hotels, the spirits, the drinks, the food, the apparel. These are businesses, and we have to know in HBCU community how these deals work and what's the potential for scaling up to kind of get to some of those levels for and this is good when we throw these numbers out there so you can see why some of these things happen. Byron Allen coming around is a big deal, and it's a big businessman to be doing that. No, I do want to talk about real briefly before we close, and maybe next week we'll take a look at conference realignment in HBCUs. One thing I
Mm-hmm.
like that we do, Ben, and I almost said D like he was here. We look at an issue and what does that mean to the HBCU community, whether it be NIL deals,
Mm-hmm.
where student athletes can profit off of their name, image, and likeness. What does that mean for a Payne College? What does that mean for Livingstone College? Or we look at the bowl situation. Shout out to the new bowl for the SAIC and the CIAA that's just been announced. That'll take place
Yes,
in
the
early
Florida Beach Bowl. Yeah, the Florida Beach Bowl. Shout out.
Florida. As a Benedict Tiger, what did you think when you saw that news?
I thought it was big. I thought it was big. Uh, it's needed. You wondered if it was going to happen with the success of the Celebration Bowl. So I was wondering if it would happen, how long. Now, granted, we got to look at the benefits because when you have a nationally ranked team, like Benedict, you always want to try to prove yourself against the big boys.
Right,
So, but once again, as you said, I show you where your values are if you show me your budget. And we got budgets, we got things we gotta commit to with that budget. So we gotta look at what will be also most impactful for the budget. Uh, and I'm gonna be honest, I would love to see a matchup against my Tigers versus the top of the CIAA. If possible, I would love to. I would travel to go see it. But we gotta see. We gotta see. We gotta look at, some of the inner workings of that and what the future perspectives is. Because, you know, let's say Benedict wins it, but let's say you got a Tuskegee that finishes second who travels well. Might be more beneficial to have Tuskegee versus a Benedict because they're gonna bring 5,000.
right,
So also you got to look at the dynamics of that with those who are hosting the event. It has to suit all parties.
yeah,
You know, um, and and I know with Benedict, it's a tough situation because if you like we were last year and you were a top seed in the playoffs, you're going to host two, possibly three rounds.
right,
So you say, hey, we got a chance to get all the revenue, right? If we make a run, So you got to weigh those things. Those things factor in. Now you could have disappointment like we had last year, lose in the second round. We had to
second
buy.
round,
We didn't get to host multiple games, but that's still out there, and they might say, hey, we know we're gonna make. We've been making X, Y, and Z at home games, and now playoffs, higher stakes, higher competition. We still it might outweigh what the initial promises are of the Florida Beach Bowl. So we have to see. But I'm excited either way because I love having options.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, big shout out to people
Yeah,
even attempting to do it. Somebody out there wants these young people to have postseason opportunities,
yeah,
and, and
yeah.
and sometimes it's our job as fans to make sure that it's successful. They can
Yeah,
only do so much. I mean, they get the sponsorship money and they get the location. We gotta go support it. We
got to,
have to be in
got
the
to,
stands and buy a
got
drink,
to,
buy some orange juice and some celery sticks
got
or
to.
something. Yeah,
And folks, we active on them social media pages. We should be tweeting and sharing
that's right.
all the excitement of the Florida Beach Bowl celebration bowl, because it is us that makes it what it is. We validate it, not the ESPN contracts or the ABC contracts. It is the fans, the consumers that validate these things. Look at the Bayou Classic. It is the atmosphere, the fans, what they
Yeah,
bring that validates it to where it's been a staple on NBC. NBC bought into that thing years ago in the
that's right.
80s
Yeah,
because of the people, because they valued that, the heritage, the significance of it. Look at what they've sacrificed. There have been some great Southern teams and great Grambling teams that sacrificed the playoffs that they probably could have made runs for national championships because they know the value of that game. And it's good for revenue
yeah,
with the TV contract. But that's that's what we have to understand, people. Like if we don't buy into these things and support them and get out there, alumni, okay, we got because we're the ones that validate it to where if we make it the most prominent game because we're attending it and making it that, there's no way the TV companies and stuff will stay away because they will see the revenue. They will see the opportunity. Now, we got to make sure we're smart where we don't catch the bad end of the stick. But I go back and I'll shut this up so we can close out with featuring A&T. But I just remember when we used to do the Capital uh, Classic Benedict in South Carolina State, when we renewed that, we would easily at because we played at William Bryce, which is the stadium in the University of South Carolina. Easily the first couple years we moved it there, easily 60,000 plus. Easily. Some
hmm
things change. People, have different ways, but I just think about that. Like, why wasn't that sustained? We were producing it, and it might have dropped. I don't know the particulars. I know the first several years when I attended it, it was amazing, and it's just like we need to continue those when we put these postseason, these playoff games. Like we need to do it so that we get the attention now, especially while people's antennas are up with these entertainment corporations. But with that, we got a few more minutes. We
yeah.
got a little over 5 minutes. So, Mac, I'm gonna pass it to you to
And
show our academic highlight. Go ahead.
I would last little piece on that. Freedom is not free, and Ken Free. I talk all the time about how that early bowl he did was called the Freedom Bowl, and we grew up selling programs at those games. And so we grew up about seeing this take place, seeing great players like Jerry Rice in the Freedom
Mhm.
Bowl, Willie Satellite Totten, and the Allen Hookers at A and
Yeah,
T, and players like that. And so, but the only way you could get them all there, the only way you could showcase that world class scholar athlete was with the revenue. And my uncle, your dad, he never went to sleep until the adequate number of tickets were sold because that was the big thing. Support, support. I can go out and get the sponsors, but you still have to come and support and you're gonna have the time of your life if you go. There's nothing like seeing Grambling State University's band at that time take on Florida A&M's the Marching Rattlers, and then Grambling just brings out Dimples, the R&B singer that had the song "You Better Stop," and he sings at halftime. You never forget these things, and they got great scholarship going on, like we're highlighting to close out the show today. You don't see magazines anymore. Everything is so digital. It's good to get a magazine in your hand. This is North Carolina A&T State University's college magazine, where they highlight their academic achievements and their great research and development things that they have going on. Just want to take a quick moment at the end of these shows to highlight the great academic and innovation that's going on at these campuses. Real quick caption I'm going to read for you. It says, visions of what the future would look like usually include references of the Jetsons, flying cars, hovercrafts, robots, and automation. Welcome to the future. North Carolina A&T already serves food by delivery robots. And I'll say this, if you haven't been to A&T's campus in a while, it is the most interesting thing. They have these little robots that'll ride by you with food deliveries to the dorm rooms by these little robots. It's just amazing. Uh, they even have humanoid and canine robots in the College of Engineering labs, added an exciting new dimension to its portfolio of futuristic innovations as it unveils three new autonomous shuttles that will soon go into use on campus and nearby roads. So I'm gonna close that right there by saying this is highlighting ANT's autonomous vehicle program. They have a world class school of engineering. I told you last week my daughter was in that program, where she is, and these cars drive themselves, and they are on campus now doing this. So if you're an engineering student or a math major or an IT student around the country, around the world, you may be watching this, and you want one of the best engineering departments in the world, North Carolina A&T would be a smart choice, and that's coming from around of Winston-Salem State. So big ups to A&T and T and what they're doing over there. We'll feature
Big
another
up
school
to
next week.
to the Aggies. Big ups to the Aggies. And though they not in the MEAC anymore, we still got love. They're one
We
of
still
our
claim them.
thriving
We're gonna talk about
HBCUs.
that, right?
Oh yeah.
Next week.
Oh, we gonna
Oh,
talk
oh we,
about. We didn't get in tonight because I ain't
yeah,
because we would have gone another hour. But we
another,
Aggie
yeah,
fans, we coming for you because y'all feeling some kind of way over there, and there's
yeah.
been a lot said by former players and stuff. That's looking a little side eye at this move. But we'll talk about that more next week. We're gonna see how it pans out. If A&T can get a win next weekend, maybe that'll
Right.
calm everybody down. So we gonna see. It's tough when you start the year 0-3. Uh,
Yeah,
with
that's
some
tough.
tough matchups. There's some tough matchups.
Yeah,
But
they
on that,
have.
brother Mackey, man, another great time, man. But we're gonna look forward to next week getting at you. Look for us Friday with a quick live with names are not important. Shout out to brother Mac. Uh, and hey man, until next week, my brother.
Peace.
Peace. We'll see you. Check us out. Facebook. Names are not important. Instagram, Mac and Free. YouTube. Names are not important. Other than that, hey, we'll see you next time.